Hey everyone, this is Louis7 and I'm doing an overview review kind of rundown of the update 23.3 coming up in the Lord of the Rings Online that will be released on Monday, February 4th, a couple of days from now. They posted the notes pretty early, but this will be pretty similar to my past couple update videos, so if you all still have any feedback, I'd really appreciate it as we get into this one. I do want to mention the gameplay in the background is on my Minstrel and I'm running Skirmishes, which will be two big topics of this update. So to go ahead and get into the big things of this update, and I will read, I'm going through the patch notes here, I will post those in the description, but the big things in this update is Tier 3 is being released for the Anvil of Winterstith raid, the new raid in update 23.2, I guess. And then the Skirmish event, Ill Omens, there's a new Skirmish event, that one's going to be really exciting for me. Then there are quite a few class changes. Beornings and Burglars got some minor changes, and Minstrel's got some pretty big changes, kind of a rework. Not too much like fully rework changing the Minstrel, but a lot of updated stuff with them that we will go over. Then a few items have been updated, random like various bug fixes with things like that, as well as quest and adventure areas. There have also been some bug fixes and just minor changes, at least with the raid. And then there have also been some UI changes along with some new graphics options. So yeah, that's what's going on here in update 23.3, so I will go through each kind of line of note, not quite every line of note, but pretty much everything here in order from top to bottom, and give a little review and just what I think of everything, again like the past couple update videos I've done. So the first thing is Tier 3 is being released for the Anvil of Winterstith raid, and this will unlock Thursday at 10 a.m. and there will be a new deed available for Tier 3 and the Tier 2 and 3 deeds, I guess, for completing it pretty early and getting that done. Those will be available through March 6th, 2019, so that'll be about a month you can do that and get those deeds, and I think there are titles that come with that. And then the next thing is the Skirmish event, which I mentioned I'm very excited for. Skirmishes are one thing I feel are very underutilized in the game, and they're very fun system to me. There's just not too much point in running them at the level cap. They actually do have some nice things, but people still don't want to run them. And on February 7th, so also Thursday, there's a new event coming to LOTRO called Ill Omens. And this will come to Skirmishes, and it says in the patch notes here, evil stirs in Minas Morgul, and harbingers of the dead city spread across Middle-earth. So this is a limited time event that will add additional enemies and rewards to Skirmishes through March 11th, so that also lasts about a month as well. And by completing a specific set of themed skirmishes each day while the Ill Omens event is active, you'll earn a special currency you can exchange for new gear and cosmetic rewards. And for the most dedicated skirmishers, like me hopefully, if you complete 30 of these, you will earn a powerful level cap statted reward. So this is something that's really exciting for me. It's probably something I will participate in and actually get me out of the legendary servers back to Arkenstone for a little bit to do this stuff. It's one reason I kind of wish skirmishes were on the legendary server right now so I could participate in it on those, which is kind of shifting to my main server it seems like now. But aside from that, I'm excited for this and do plan to stream it if you want to watch out for that. And yeah, it'll be, as I mentioned, something to get me back to actually playing end game in LOTRO right now on the non-legendary, the regular servers. So moving aside from that, we do have the class changes right now. First there's Beorning, and Beornings can now use crossbows starting at level 1. I guess they could only use bows before at level 1. And then Encouraging Roar's healing over time. Encouraging Roar was nerfed, so its healing over time component has been reduced by 15%, and the magnitude from the tiers has been decreased from 3 times at tier 3 to only 2 times at tier 3, so it's overall a nerf to that heal. I think it was pretty strong as it is right now. It's unfortunate to see because I like bear healing, but yeah, it was nerfed a little bit, and that is only 1 heal. And then they also changed the Abyss set bonus. I guess that's the Mortar set bonus. Honestly, not too familiar with that. To distribute encouraging heals over time component at 20% and power increase of 30%. That actually did not make any sense to me when I read it. So the healing over time component sounds like it was buffed to 33%. I'm not really sure what's going on with their wording of the notes there. but that doesn't really affect me, but might be good to know if you're using the set. And then moving on to Burglar, they only have one line of changes, but this is a pretty significant line here. So most Burglar skills have received a moderate damage increase. I honestly thought this was supposed to be in the last patch, and actually if we read the next sentence, this increase was intended for release in a previous update, so update 23.1.7. I made a new Burglar based on that update to try and test the changes, and it looks like some of the changes didn't actually make it through that I thought would be in that update, which is the moderate damage increase. And I think that is a good thing because Burglars, I feel like, need that damage increase, and it'll make them more viable. And they will also be making more significant Burglar changes in a future patch, so that's something exciting to look out for. And again, update 23.1.7 I thought was intended for these more significant changes and damage increase, so it looks like they're still working on that some. And that is a good thing for me to see because I thought Burglars could definitely still use some work after that update. But moving on, we have Minstrel. And again, the gameplay in the background, I don't know exactly what's going on as I'm talking right now, but I'm doing skirmishes on my Minstrel, so maybe you can check out for some of the stuff I'm using, see if it applies here. And I also do have my Minstrel, I'm logged into her right now, so I can look at these changes. I do gotta kind of switch my setup here, but I'm logged into her so I can at least somewhat look at these changes. I'm spec'd in the red line, I don't even have my other specs set up, but I can look at that stuff if I need to. So the big two things we see up here are many Minstrel skills and effects that have not been previously normalized are now normalized, and that's a pretty significant change. It'll just mean, it even says here, result in a more even experience as you level. So my high level Minstrel, you might notice she's doing a lot of DPS, but that's because she has like insane tactical mastery. Her weapon's not even that good. So relative to, I think, where she should be, if her skills were normalized, their damage, it would be a lot smoother and doing more damage overall. That's at least my guess. Based on my experience with the Minstrel, low-level Minstrels are really strong, and then high-level Minstrels are really weak, and I think that even includes healing. Healing gets, my Minstrel, high-level Minstrel does not heal that well right now compared to a Runekeeper. Even my low-level one compared to a Runekeeper or Beorning doesn't heal that well. But as we will see, this update should fix that and bring Minstrels back to more in line with where they should be. But moving on from this, yeah, the skills have been normalized. That's always a good thing, normalization, even if it isn't a direct buff from that. And as we'll see, a lot of buffs coming to the Minstrel later on in the notes. So the next big thing is animations on several skills have been shortened. This is a huge thing to me. I always think anything to make you be more active, have more things to use them more quickly instead of waiting for my Minstrel to pluck the strings a little bit longer, hit the drum, while doing nothing, just waiting for the animation to finish doesn't really feel that great. And it is one thing I noticed with Minstrel, like Court of Salvation, for example, that instant heal, it has an insanely long animation with no induction and being immediate. And of course you can animation cancel in the at least blue line, I don't know the yellow line with the healing, and I'm actually, my character right now is trying to be attacked by a lizard. But moving on from that, I do think that's overall a nice thing. So a lot of these changes, as I mentioned, they'll just be like little buffs. I won't have too much to comment on them. So the first thing we have here is healer slash hero slash dissonant strike. The melee skill, as I'm more familiar with it, just calling it like their melee skill, has been, the damage of it has been significantly increased, and it draws its damage from tactical implement. And it now does light damage, so a few changes to that to make it stronger. Another change to it is the healing from healers and hero strike has been increased significantly. So I think that's a good thing to see. I'm kind of curious if it'll be worth using that skill, the melee skill, now. But yeah, it looks like that might actually be viable, maybe even the healing from it, just to tap on melee real quick, or if you're in melee range while DPSing or solo, to go ahead and get a quick melee hit, and that would be nice if it's actually going to be viable. The next thing we have here is major ballad group heals have been increased significantly, and I think the bigger change here is actually you can use this skill out prior to combat, it says. So this skill was always annoying that you couldn't use it out of combat, and I think not only having the healing being significantly increased to actually be more viable, being able to use it out of combat is just a really nice change with that. That was something that always bothered me personally. I don't know how much it affected other Minstrels, but it was something that really always bothered me. So I'm glad to see that change, and we also have improved Court of Salvation's group healing component has been increased significantly. Another nice change to have healing significantly increased, but its cooldown has been increased from 10 to 12 seconds. I think along with the healing increase, the cooldown increase isn't going to be all too significant. And actually, as we'll see, a lot of skills have had their cooldown increased, and I personally don't think that's the worst thing ever. Some minstrels might be a little bit iffy on it, but I personally, my experience with minstrels having increased cooldowns on some skills doesn't have a big impact on me in the way they play. But moving on from that tangent, we have fellowship parts, base healing and group healing over time have been increased. Always nice to have your big, that's like your big cooldown. It's a 5-minute cooldown skill. We'll actually see. I don't know why they have this. I'll go ahead and go to the last line here, but the cooldown has been reduced from 5 minutes to 2 minutes. So that's your big like AoE fellowship heal, and then also has a heal over time 30-second component to that. And it's kind of your, like I said, big uh-oh skill as far as that goes. But with the shortened cooldown, you can use it more frequently. That's one thing that did feel bad to me, is like it would be on cooldown after using it for like the next fight, and that was always frustrating. And a 2-minute cooldown, if you're like have one fight where you need to use it and then 3 minutes later you need to use it again, that's a lot better than having it still be on cooldown. So I'm glad to see that changes. Also the healing on it, it's honestly kind of weak right now, so having the increase with a lot of things, that's going to be the case. Having increases is nice. But moving on from that, we have 3 changes for Raise the Spirit, which is your quick induction, small heal. Bolster Courage is the other minstrel heal here that's the longer induction, kind of your 2, I guess, main simple induction type heals. And Raise the Spirit's base healing has been increased, animation has been shortened, but its base induction has been increased from 1.2 to 1.4 seconds. So I always think of Raise the Spirit as a quick heal, quick animation. The healing has been increased. I'm kind of curious. It's probably going to be normalized and in line with other things, so I don't think that will be too significant change for how it's used. But I'm personally not the biggest fan of the induction increase, but we could see maybe just balance-wise that'll make more sense. But I always think of the skill as, instead of Bolster Courage, the longer induction, bigger heal skill, something just really quick to get off, and having the induction increase, even though the animation has been shortened, doesn't sound that great to me. But on the topic of the animation being shortened, maybe overall the skill from start to finishing, being able to cast another skill, will be the same time overall now. So that is a possibility. And then Raise the Spirit's yellow line trait now properly applies a fellowship healing over time effect. This is actually something I noticed and ran into. Whenever I was playing my yellow line minstrel, it didn't actually apply a fellowship healing over a time effect. That was something that personally bothered me, so I'm glad to see that fixed. And then this one's actually pretty big. Raise the Spirit now has a 1-second cooldown. As I mentioned, I don't think it's a big problem that you can't spam that, and it'll provide some variety in how you play the yellow line minstrel. I'm a fan of how like Runekeeper healing plays out, and just using a lot of different skills, even for some different uses, and applying those hots to different allies. I kind of think just having some more variety in the minstrel healing instead of just spamming Bolster Courage over and over and over again will be good. And as we'll see later, there will be some changes to Bolster Courage which kind of go in line with that. And yeah, some minstrels might not like the changes with these new cooldowns, but I don't actually know. Some of them might like it like me, but I think having that kind of forced cooldown to get some variety is a good thing. So Code of Resonance and Coda of Melody, I think that's a typo, and they meant Coda of Resonance and Coda of Melody. Their healing has been increased, just kind of a buff there with those. Inspire Fellows healing has been increased, and its cooldown increased from 5 to 6 seconds, and base induction has been reduced from 2.5 to 2 seconds. I like seeing the induction reduced, because that skill takes a long time to induct, and down to 2 seconds will help. I don't think the increased cooldown will be too big of an impact. It's only a 1-second increase, and of course the healing increase is nice. Similarly, Perfect Endings healing has been increased, just nice increase there. So now we're moving on to Bolster Courage, which kind of actually goes more in line. I probably could have skipped to this one with Raise the Spirit, but the direct and group healing has been increased, which seems to be the case with a lot of skills here. Animation time been reduced, but it now has a 3-second cooldown, and the base induction has been increased from 2.5 to 2.7 seconds. Overall, the base induction increase isn't all that much, it's just 0.2 seconds already on an already long to induct skill. So I don't think that will be the biggest change there. But having a 3-second cooldown instead of being able to just spam it will be a pretty big change to the skill. So you can't just spam Bolster Courage over and over and over again. And that was kind of one reason I didn't like the Minstrel so much, because that was pretty much the most viable thing. I think they actually made some more recent changes since I've really played the blue line that that's not really the case anymore. But I think having the cooldown for the force variety is a good thing, to be honest, and I do like that change, especially if it works out that the healing of some other stuff is buffed and actually other things are viable than just spamming Bolster Courage. Another thing is Triumphant Spirit's healing has been increased, so Triumphant Spirit, if you're in the blue line, that's kind of another big cooldown. Big fellowship heal, but it honestly for me doesn't heal that much. Not only is my healing weak on this character, her songbook is horrible, to say the most about it, and yeah, the healing increase on that will be nice, because right now again it doesn't heal that much, and it is a 4-minute big cooldown skill. At least base 4-minute you can reduce the cooldown, but anyway, moving on from that, that one is nice to see. I just wanted to let you all know, if you are unfamiliar with the skill, which one that was. Then we have a couple changes to our bubbles here. Song of the Hammerhand's bubble magnitude has been increased to 10% to 30% max vitality. I think having an increase in bubble magnitude is always a good thing for Minstrels. Their bubbles are kind of weak. Next thing is Song of Hammerhand's bubble magnitude has been increased from 10% to 30% of maximum vitality. And then I'm going to skip a few lines here and just mention Gift and Legend of the Hammerhand bubble magnitudes have been increased from 10% to 20% maximum vitality. So yeah, we have some buffs to the bubble magnitudes there. For some reason I feel like I skipped this. I haven't... Okay, sorry about that. I'm just like reading and reading and reading here. If I already covered this, sorry, but Legend of the Hammerhand's expiring heal is now 2% of Fellowship members' max morale per bubble that expires. I don't remember actually going over that. I might have skipped it on accident. But I'm not sure what it actually is now, but something to note with that. When the bubble expires, per bubble that expires, rather, you get 2% of each Fellowship member's max morale for the heal. So moving on from all the bubbles, we have Soliloquy of Spirit Soliloquy of Spirit is no longer immediate and will not interrupt other skill animations. So this is probably a needed change. It was probably unintended. This is a skill you use to cancel animations, basically. It was an immediate skill, so it always immediately went off and interrupted other skill animations. So it's no longer immediate and will not interrupt those. Kind of a sad thing to see, because it was kind of fun that way, but hopefully with the other changes it's not too impactful to the playstyle, especially with something like Court of Salvation, which takes forever to go through the animation, and just canceling that animation with Soliloquy of Spirit was basically required, I feel like, and it felt horrible to cast, what's that skill called? I just said it, Court of Salvation. It feels horrible to cast that solo, but you sometimes have to for the quick little heal boost. As you'll probably see in these skirmishes I'm running, which I did die near the beginning, unfortunately, as I was, well, I actually got hit by a pretty big crit. I think it was even a dot, maybe. That specific mob is doesn't scale well in skirmishes, but moving on from that, I'm just curious how that will play out, basically. And then Story of Courage no longer has an induction, and is now a fast skill with a short animation. So can't really say that Story of Courage that's the skill that it has a 3-second induction and it removes debuffs is what it does, if you're curious. And yeah, that's a really long induction. I think I even have been using it a couple times here in the gameplay, and that'll be a really nice change because that's a very long induction. and being also fast just to get it out faster will be very helpful. So that's a very nice change to see. We already did the bubble magnitude, and then Echoes of Battle now does light damage. Echoes of Battle is a skill that I honestly think is, it's useful to apply, but it's just not that good. It does so little damage, I feel horrible applying it to enemies. But I am curious if this will make, just also with the normalization and changes, if that will make it viable to actually, damage-wise, to start applying more often, because a lot of shorter fights, there's no reason to apply it, basically. So I think that's a nice change. We'll see if it, how it plays out, if I'll actually like it and like Echoes of Battle a little bit more. And then all ballad damage has been increased, kind of. I guess that'll help some sustained damage with the Minstrel here. That is one problem. They can do pretty crazy burst damage, especially while leveling it at low levels. Even my Minstrel here can do some crazy burst damage if I get my crits, especially with all my call and cry skills. But the sustained damage it gets pretty bad when you're using your ballads and you don't have anything else available. So yeah, having that increase should be overall nice. And then actually moving on to another healing change, successive heals will now maintain the perfect ending buff once you have achieved a full stack rather than having expired if not used. I think this is overall a kind of quality of life change. But it also will probably overall impact the healing, having it just keep on refreshing it instead of having that expired. And you can, I think perfect ending, you can use that, can't think of the heal, snowball heal, as far as I know. I should probably check this real quick. Unfortunately, I cannot find exactly what perfect ending is, but if I remember correctly, that lets you use the snowball heal. Don't want to go on this way too much if it is that specifically, but overall this is a nice quality of life change, I think, on top of probably impacting healing a little bit overall. And then Fellowship's Heart cooldown, we already mentioned this when I actually went over Fellowship's Heart, but the cooldown has been reduced from 5 to 2 minutes. Pretty big change. And then we have a lot of item changes, some changes with the jewelry from the raid. Loot boxes have been updated. The adventures and travels loot boxes contain the same cosmetic items. You can open some coffers at level 20. I'm assuming it was higher level before, maybe 25. I don't actually know the Wayfarer's armor coffers. Crafted shields will display the correct item level for the crit output. Fix some issues about pending loot not receiving their bonus item level adjustment. That's a good bug fix rather. And then they fixed another bug that caused bonus item level adjustments to reward 1 level higher than expected. And this is kind of odd, but arrows that are deflected will now correctly display their arrow in flight and show the appropriate deflected arrow after reaching its target. Not really sure what this applies to. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what's going on there, but having a fix like that is always good. So they made some changes to loot boxes, increased item level of some things, and added some cosmetic and housing items. There's honestly just way too much in loot boxes. I'm not a fan of loot boxes. I think a lot of people aren't either. The system in its way now that you can at least break down some stuff and disenchant it to buy stuff from the vendor is better than it used to be, but honestly, I don't like that system overall, and adding more stuff just dilutes everything. And it's not, wouldn't even mind having more stuff available, but yeah, I just don't participate in that at all. But it is something to note that they do have those changes. And then they also have Tome of the Black Mastiff now properly binds on account on acquire. And then that, along with a couple other items, have had they now have their appropriate disenchant values. I don't know if they were too high or too low, but I guess nice to see those being where they should be. Then they have a lot of bug fixes, and there might be some minor changes here. I'm not familiar with the Anvil of Winterstead too much, but they have a lot of bug fixes here, and maybe some minor changes, some changes to text. I don't know how much that'll affect the raid, but if you're interested in those specifically, they are in the notes. And then the non-cap featured instance quest will no longer award credit if you complete the instance 9 or more levels below you. So that is a somewhat impactful change. I guess if 9 levels below you is kind of an arbitrary level, 9 or more levels below your level, but yeah, you could run like level 105 before at level 120 and get the non-cap rewards. Now you have to run it, I guess, at 112. You can't, if you run it at level 111, you won't get the rewards, but suddenly at 112 you can, kind of just very arbitrary, the 8 levels below you. But it would make some more sense to me if it was like level 110 you couldn't, and you'd have to run level 111 or above. But that's the change with that. And then there is a bug fix that featured instance, cap level, and challenge quests for Hellground and School will no longer erroneously bestow. And this is impactful to the legendary servers because if you ran those instances, it would give you that featured instance, cap level, and challenge quest, even though you weren't just running the featured instance, but it's not even in the legendary servers that game for them. And then it also notes the featured instance system will become available at level 100. That's kind of something we could have assumed because that's when they were released, but that'll be a whiles away for the legendary servers, the ones there are right now at least. And then finally, getting towards the end of these notes, we have the UI changes. There's been a new option called Enable Texture Cache. So textures will be cached in your system memory, which may improve load times at the cost of increased memory usage. I think this is something that I will use. I don't know how impactful it will be because I don't have memory issues, and improving load time is always a good thing, so I will probably try that. And then they do have a new option related to that. You can only use this option when texture cache is enabled. This one's called Release Texture on Upload. So this releases textures after they have been uploaded to graphics memory, and that will reduce the memory uses of texture cache and potentially reduce its effectiveness. So that'll free up some system memory, but only if you already have the option enabled to use more system memory. So kind of what I think of that option is it's kind of an in-between, not even having texture cache enabled and then having it fully enabled and having this off. It's kind of in between on that if you are having some slight memory issues on that and want it to be maybe less effective. But I will probably try those options, anything to help load time, and I don't really have issues with LOTRO consuming any graphics memory or RAM for that matter. So it'll be something I'll try out. They also have the /pets go for command has been fixed. I have no idea what was wrong with it before. They fixed some issues with housing decorations, the return to owner button so that bound items can be returned to housing chests and escrows, and added some tooltips there, fixed cosmetic initialization issues, fixed an issue where quick slot bars would fail to display empty slots when the collections panel was first open. I've never ran into that, but if you're interested, that is a fix, or if it's impacted you. And the very last thing we have here is known issues, and I'll go ahead and go through the known issues. So Minstrel several skill animations have been shortened, leaving the instrument in your hand after using a skill. So after like using a heal, it looks like the instrument will stay in your hand. And then using melody or resonance stand skill, or many of the damage skills should remove the instrument from your hand, and it sounds like it doesn't. So you're sounds like an honestly kind of fun bug to me just to have for a little bit. Having your, like if you're using a cry or call and you have your instrument out, could lead to some fun screenshots or something. But that is a known issue right now that they do intend to fix. I don't know if it will be fixed by the time the update is released, because again, it is a couple days until it will release, and they'll have, I assume, well, it is the weekend, but a little bit of time to work on it, maybe, or maybe that the issue will make it to the patch and they'll just hotfix it later. But yeah, that is it for update 23.3. I feel like I was just talking forever here. I hope the gameplay was enjoyable with this as well, with my Minstrel and Skirmishes, two relevant things to this update actually. Even though it's not the updated Minstrel gameplay, I'm not doing one of the Ill Omen Skirmishes because that event doesn't start for like actually 5 days from now. We haven't even had the update yet. But if you do have any feedback, I'd really appreciate to hear it. I feel like, I don't know if you want more, if you like me talking kind of the depth I do with the notes, maybe a little bit less or even more on each note, I'd appreciate to hear any feedback on that because I am still new to making these videos and I want them to be as helpful to you all as possible. And I guess at the end here, I do want to mention some things you might want to look out for from my channel is a stream of the Minstrel similar to my leveling a new Burglar stream, where I will be checking out some of the changes, at least as it applies to a leveling Minstrel, and then probably log on to my high-level Minstrel here, the one you see in the gameplay, and test out some of the changes on her towards the end. Pretty similar to the format I did the Burglar. I really like that stream and plan to do it to some more characters, especially ones like this as they've been updated, because it's just a good opportunity to do that. So that's something to look out for, and I will also probably be streaming the Ill Omen Skirmish event quite a bit and actually moving back to Arkansas a little bit. So something else to look out for if you're interested in that. And yeah, I hope you all did enjoy this. I gotta settle on a name here for this type of video where I run through the updates, but kind of overview of the update 23.3 release notes. And if you did, please do consider liking and subscribing for more and maybe leaving some feedback. And thanks for watching, everyone.